Good morning, everybody, and good afternoon and good evening. I hope that you are all doing well this fine December 23rd, 2022. It is a wonderful but very chilly Friday out where I am at. But as we were talking about it yesterday, both Geo and I share a birthday. I turned 27 today, and just wanted to hang out with you guys for about an hour or so. And just say hi and say hello. So many familiar names and faces in chat. Hello, everybody. I hope that you're all doing well. Um, yes, well, thank you so much, Nathan. Everyone else in chat, greatly appreciate it. So, yeah, today I just figured I'd hang out and chat with you guys for a little bit, enjoy another year on this earth. Quite a blessing that it is. And I hope that everyone has a pleasant weekend. It's Friday. Christmas is this Sunday. Is everyone excited? I certainly hope so. And now, um, no, my family did a really good job growing up to make sure that that wasn't the case, and it was always kept separate. So, but as I've gotten older as an adult, it's kind of gotten less where that tends to be the case. But no, I never was that case growing up. Um, uh, Also permanently banned. I'm not banning him because he used to be the user. What was his name? Like Scrotchy McDumpwaffle or something, and he probably had the best super chats. And yeah, I'm gonna invite Geo to come on as well, so we'll have that. I invited several other people to come on if they wanted to. So we'll go invite Geo for him to come on. It's like you're getting two episodes of the Digital Archipelago back to back. Uh, Are you referring to good morning, good afternoon, and good evening? That's my usual Sunday line. Or is Sunday just going to be my usual good morning, go to church? That's what I'm going to still do. You should be going to church on Sunday. I don't care that it's Christmas Day. You should be at church. But no, it finally feels like the Christmas season is absolutely upon us, in part because it's a good time. It's the winter freezes have finally come down to even where I live. It snowed yesterday. It was a very good time all around. Even if it didn't stay for very long, it just felt like a really good time just to see the weather drop. It finally got cold, to see the animals scurrying about in the snow. Life was very good. I was very happy with it. And I'm totally wrecking my algorithm by doing like 3 or 4 shows back to back. I was with Geo yesterday on here with the Digital Archipelago. I'm doing this, and then you guys are getting my Christmas address on Sunday. But 'tis the season, and then there'll be some fun stuff on Substack for everybody to enjoy as well. So it's definitely going to be very nice. And yes, slip into your house coat, grab your hot beverage of choice. I am literally drinking out of my Frog of the Week mug, enjoying a glass of hot chocolate. I hope that you're all having a good time. But how has everyone else been? This is sort of my time to sort of just check in with everybody and see how everyone else is doing. I know that Mr. Furious Pertinax will be on in a little bit. I sent an invite to Geo if he wanted to come on. But if he's going to do his own stream, that's perfectly fine and understandable. It's also his birthday. Um, but yeah, here we go. Do I have any hot takes on Christmas? Any popular films, foods, customs that I don't like, or any unpopular ones that that I like? Well, I said it yesterday. I really like Jingle All the Way. That just seems to be like the great modern Christmas, family man who's not really a family man. That's probably one of my favorite movies. I love The Muppets Christmas Carol. I'm a big fan of the George C. Scott 1984 version. I've seen 3 films of him in it, and it's The Exorcist 3, Patton, and and A Christmas Carol. And so those are the 3 movies of George C. Scott that I've seen, and every movie is it. Actually, no, there's 4 because they brought him back to do this sort of like docudrama or documentary about like Patton's last days before he died, and they brought back an older George C. Scott long after the original film had been shot, and so that one's actually pretty interesting. And I actually have been to the same part of the country where not George C. Scott, but General Patton had passed away from the car accident. Although I'm a little more a little more skeptical as to when that took place. As for that, though, I'm a fan of. I mean, there's not too many things I don't dislike. I quite like Irving Berlin's White Christmas, although I have some issues with Irving Berlin in some of his other musics. But as someone who really enjoys like stage performances and things like that, I'm a fan. I also like putting on a lot of. I'm just a musical fan in general, so like I like Robin and the Seven Hoods. I like almost every piece of film that. Oh goodness, what's his name has been in. But yeah, no, it's very sus accident indeed, Spasticus Autisticus. But yeah, no, it's just I enjoy the holiday overall. I quite like it because fall and winter is a time for everyone to sort of put on their best dress, and it sort of becomes common and regular. Whereas during like the summer and spring, everyone is certainly out and about, not dressed the way that they are. But maybe I just like the fact that I dress like a community college professor all the time. And so it's certainly something I have to. It's my cross to bear, looking like someone who's a rootless cosmopolitan living out in the middle of nowhere. So all those cardigans and like wool knit ties that I own are absolutely useless. But that's okay. I can wear them at church and not feel bad. So let's see. Well, let's talk about chat real quick. And what are you all doing for the holidays? I have such a vast international audience. It's like 50-50 where it's Americans for like, I think the last time I checked the stats, it was like 49.8% of my audience is American. And then the rest of you all are either from the UK or the rest of the world. And the same thing reflects on my Subscribe Star page. I've got everyone from individuals in Japan to Poles to Ukrainians to Russians to Brits to Canadians. I even have a nice gentleman from Peru and one from Egypt that sends me a delightful little message every now and then to let me know how things are going over there in his country. So I've been quite blessed as of late to hear from all of you, and I think that's probably one of my favorite gifts since doing this channel is to get a wide array of ideas, belief systems, and customs, and just hearing how everyone else in the world is doing. And it makes me quite glad. For instance, and I need to reschedule this because I was sick the other week, and I'm still kind of recovering from it, but I was quite happy to make a friend via basket weaving in my area. And he and I are, totally totally different backgrounds. And he's sort of a traditionalist Hindu, and it's very nice. And happy birthday, Geo. How are you?
Yeah, happy birthday, bro. Wow.
I know.
27 years old.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Oh, all right. All right. Yeah, it's kind of surreal though, being 30 years old.
I got a message from Sandbat. She says that don't worry about it. You start to feel it when you're 33.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like 30 is it's the new like 20 for millennials, I feel. It really is. Like, my God. My old man, when he was 23, he was already married and he had his business. And me, when I was 23, I was like was I in grad school? I forget. Yeah. How have you been, man?
I'm good. I was just saying how I was quite happy with how the weather's been. I mean, I know everyone's enjoying that polar vortex or whatever they're calling it, but
it's windy like hell, man.
But down here in Texas, we got a little bit of snow yesterday morning. It was just peak cozy, and then I had to walk the dog, and then it was absolutely freezing. I was like, oh, screw this, because we were well below freezing. I think when I checked my phone last night before going to bed, it said 8 degrees Fahrenheit, so it was a good time.
Apparently, it's once in a lifetime vortex.
I mean,
or median, yeah.
Really? Is it though? Because I mean, like where I'm at, like Texas had those like 2 freezes the last 2 winters where everyone had some kind of electrical or plumbing or the power went out. So who knows? But I'm quite happy.
That was like that episode of King of the Hill where they needed to get the propane out because people were freezing. So Hank, I'm so cold. And then they had to like devise a plan to like truck them because they didn't have licenses, like hazmat licenses. So it's like, let's just tow the trucks. I don't know. I remember that episode.
Yeah.
But here in Canada, that's nothing though. This like people freak out in Texas when you get, but it's just a normal occurrence here in Leafland. So
Oh, it would be even worse when I lived in El Paso when, like, on that once in a blue moon occasion during the winter, it would be a cold day and it might snow, which almost never happens,
oh
right?
yeah.
But, when it does, and it'll be, like, something that'll melt in, like, an hour or 2, but everyone forgets how to drive, and it's already
Yeah.
dangerous when
Yeah.
you're down there in El Paso because, okay, the New Mexico guys may or may not have, insurance, and then the guys that are driving, the paisanos with Chihuahua plates from Mexico, those guys don't have insurance at all, and they don't speak English, and they're already going
Oh,
to drive under 20 under the speed limit. Plus, it just snowed, so you're not going anywhere anytime soon if you wanted to
amazing.
hop on I-10 or anything like that.
That's like Sikhs that come and drive here for the first time. It's like the same. Oh man, but it is good content. People are crazy. Like on the road, people are crazier. I mean, I don't drive that much anymore, but like, it seems people have just lost. Like I think the last 2 years really broke a lot of people's brains for just like normal human functioning. But you'd figure like 2 years wouldn't do a lot, but like it did. It did. It just the normies just like fell apart. I feel. Um, but anyways, why are we talking about that?
Well, I mean, how many people didn't drive? That's the other thing too. I remember there was some big. I think it was like the Charlie, the Moist Critical guy or whatever. He did like he was talking about in a stream and thinking like late 2020, early 2021, where he's just like, I haven't started my car in weeks. I haven't done anything like nothing with regards to like proper maintenance on
Oh
if you're
yeah,
not going to drive your car for a long period of time. And it's just like, what are we? I feel like a lot of people's brains have been broken, and then the winter comes, and then everybody panics and but then again, we don't live overseas, and we're kind of blessed in that regard because I'm in a few chats, and I've heard definitely our European friends complaining about how cold it is.
oh, it's going to be a bad one this winter, they say, in
Yeah,
Europe. Which I mean, that has, as you know, like a bunch of geopolitical implications. But you know, but um, I don't know. I think 2023 in Europe will be very interesting. I feel, but
I think it'll be definitely interesting to see what comes next. I just hope that our friends stay warm and can take
yeah,
care of their loved ones above all things, and that's what matters. Some people are saying it got warmer in the past few days in Britain, but still, I hope that you all stay warm and that you guys take care of yourselves. That's what really matters here.
hmm, exactly.
But yeah, no. Do you have any big plans for your birthday today?
Not really, because we're pretty much like the wind and everything. I mean, I don't know. I really didn't plan anything. Like I should have, but it's just like when you sort of like want to deny something, and it's like you don't really think about it, or you do, but it's like you're caught up with like, oh my god, like what am I doing? Like it's very weird feeling. It's very weird feeling. But they say that like nowadays, um, like turning 30, like 30, like again, like yeah, for especially for a man, like 30 is the new 20. It's like when I don't know, maybe people are just coping. I don't know. They tell me that it's like oh, this is gonna be great. It's not like what you think. It's like this is when you come into your own. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. But you know,
I don't know. I mean, I've had every person tell me that once you kind of get into your late 20s, early 30s, that as a man, your life really picks up in the way that you want it to
yeah,
go. So I'm optimistic in all things that I do that that's going to be the case because the mid 20s were rough medically speaking. So I'm hoping that this
yeah.
new lease on life, I get to take another step forward and enjoy it.
Well, your thinking becomes clearer. Like you start to contextualize thinking around certain things. You know what I mean? But I feel like when it comes to a lot of people, there seems to be like an impermeable veil, like a veil of Maya, if you will. Um, Not Maya the e-girl, but I mean like actual Maya. Where it seems that a lot of people, like young men especially, can't move forward for a variety of reasons. And I think like a lot of that is socioeconomic. A lot of that is sort of like a product of um, the parenting millennials received, which is an odd mix of like helicopter parenting, but also like not like standoffishness. I don't know. It's like I feel like a lot of young men, especially Zoomers, like there's a number of reasons why. Like that's one thing I forgot about last yesterday about like we were talking about um people being terminally online, and when people say like go out there and do something, or nothing of this matters, or how shall I say it, when you tell people like, okay, stop doing this in any sort of thing, any sort of like Jordan B. Peterson, like clean your room, buckle, wash your penis. It's like you have to like realize that, and I know it sounds like Marxoid, but you have to realize like the conditions that arrive people at like why they do what they do. It's very easy to tell someone like, okay, stop being so terminally online, go and do something and touch grass. But then when you actually look at it, when you don't have like those tools, because you're receiving most identification and most dopamine and most filial loyalty through the screen with other people, that's a different reality. You know what I mean? Like you can't just easily tell someone like, okay, go and do this and go and fix your life. Like you can like it's a typical like masculinity grifter stuff that people I notice are starting to beef on. It's like you can't just like tell people to turn these things off, in other words, because the trajectory of a lot of different things within your life has led you to this point. Like I just like can think of like, man, like I never thought it was going to be this, like, like, but then you eventually just fall into a routine. And where am I going with this, Prude? I don't know. Where am I going with this? I'm hoping I'm not harshing your vibe.
It's funny because like you talked about all the things that I kind of was really clear about my speech in February.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I told people straight up, I was like, you cannot tell people to touch grass in the same way that you would tell an alcoholic that you have a problem, because all that you're going to do is antagonize them. And this is why like the best video that our friend Ryan Turnipseed has ever made is about the Zoomers, because he just really details that for most of them, it's incredibly difficult for them to imagine a life outside of it, because here, right, the online, the digital, whatever, is a place where they can find all sorts of new ideas, belief systems, religions, ideologies, and burn through them so fast that their piety is only to the online, because maybe something new will emerge. Like that whole, this is like, here's a really good Zoomer political example, was they were talking about like, Gaston from like Disney's Beauty and the Beast or whatever. And they were like, we're going to make this a political ideology. Women shouldn't read. We're going to be super strong, and we're going to eat like a dozen eggs a day. And it's just like, this is, great, cool. But like, that is the most purely Zoomer political reaction to whatever the kind of problems that we have out there. Not saying that Gaston isn't based or anything. I'm just, it's a sign that you can't point to people like, here's a playlist of like Gregorian or Byzantine chant, or here's like Legends of Galactic Heroes that become based. You can't do that. And I think that I don't know why there's a lot of flack, and I think that I might get in trouble for going out of my way to maybe like defend this guy, but like I kind of think about Justin Murphy and his recent tweets about fatherhood.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, this guy is kind of like going to the one place that he feels like he can confess to, which is Doyle created it. John Doyle's like what, in his like early 20s? That makes sense. But yeah, like Justin Murphy just tweeting about like his struggles with trying to understand fatherhood as like sort of this roaming online millennial intellectual worker developer dude, and not really having a understanding of what it means to be a dad and maintaining his own sense of identity. And I'm thinking to myself, that's going to happen a lot more, because if not, all that you're going to do is transplant and put on your own weird, shtick and drama with your own kids. And then they're going to be just as messed up as you are, which, I mean, yeah, we all try not to pass on what our parents did to us to our future children, but it's going to be really weird when like the people who spent their like weird life coping online through some sort of bizarre, I don't know, maybe like, little stuff or whatever, then man,
I have a
it's
point
going to be weird.
I have a point about that, but listen, I want to contradict Patrick Casey's point here. And by the way, thank you, Patrick Casey. Thank you for the happy birthday. I love you, my friend. But it wasn't John. Okay, it was John Doyle who created the meme, But the inspiration for Gaston memes in 4chan comes from the YouTube poop days. The famous Gaston YouTube poop. And I actually know the guy in real life who of that channel who actually did the first Gaston YouTube poop that became really popular in 4chan. But then John Doyle must have taken it from the aether of 4chan and made a meme that, Gaston is a political project. But I actually know the dude. If you look up the YouTube channel, I'm a person, who made the original Gaston YouTube poop. So anyways, but I defer to hold that total Mediterranean victory right there over the Irish. Oh boy. I love how the Italians sort of displaced the Irish as like America's go-to
minority,
like Catholic minority.
I'm
so sorry, bro. I'm so
isn't that
sorry.
the story? That's the story of every election in New Jersey. Is that it's just been an ongoing ethnic conflict
between Italians,
and Irish. It's the last 5 or 6 elections between the Dems and the Republicans. There's been nothing but Irish and Italians fighting over scraps of power in New Jersey.
And Dyspasticus Autisticus, I did see your DM. I don't have a good answer. I mean, in terms of continental theory, read I know it's a biased book because James Lindsay hawks it, but that book, Critical Theories. I think that if you want a good overview of French continental theory, you have to go like that, or Lyotard's Postmodern Condition, or then eventually go to the Foucault reader. But please put the kisses in the chat if there's
Patrick Casey's here, so you have to put the kisses in the chat.
The smooch, yeah. And like I said yesterday, I love how he every time he gets pissed off his fans, he threatens them with turning off the smooches. That's no base. I love that. But about oh, he's like, guys, I'm gonna do it. It's kind of like Ghost, doing chat room martial law. It's like engineer to click chat room martial law. But about Justin Murphy, it's funny because I was talking to I was responding to this tweet by Insane Grindset on Twitter. Yeah. He's a great poster, man. He's really great. He said people were dunking on Justin Murphy, but really he had the courage to show vulnerability and really I think the problem with Justin Murphy is that, listen, now I've been friends with Justin Murphy for many years now. Not many, pretty much. I was I believe one of the first people I ever interviewed, by the way, on his Other Life podcast. And Justin Murphy, he's got a formula. He's got a formula for having viral tweets. He does this all the time. He pisses people off, and he knows exactly, he's got an AI, Chat GPT-3 program that analyzes what will just enervate the maximum amount of people that follow Justin Murphy. So I believe he was trolling you, but not really, because, it's like what Insane Grindset said. Yes, it's stupid to say, oh my God, I missed out on partying and getting drunk, and it's I have responsibilities. But if you are a young father, not that I, know this, but I mean, people that I know that have kids, when you are a first-time father, it is very hard to just express your vulnerability, because as a man, it doesn't exactly, it's not good optics. And plus, nobody cares at the end of the day that, when you have when you have a kid and you're a man, you have to be there, as a responsible adult. You're the one that, leads the family, you're the head, you know what I mean? So it's very difficult to express those vulnerabilities. And I feel like Justin did is that he did an experiment, because that's what he views having viral tweets as. He did an experiment where he basically broke the kayfabe and said, it kind of sucks that you can't do these things that you want to, and it's hard being a first-time father, and it's you have to dramatically restructure your life. I feel like if he didn't attach it to drinking and partying, then people would have been more sympathetic. But he did that. I truly believe it was an op, because Justin, he always does this. He knows exactly what to say to piss people off. So, The logo Dallas technique.
You might know him better than me, but I'm not a.
What Charlie says, it's no excuse for that tweet. Come on.
If
Well,
it
I
wasn't
mean,
if it wasn't a
yeah.
dude weed
Well,
type of tweet, I think that there'd
yeah.
probably be more sympathy. But I know plenty of people younger than Justin Murphy that are well adjusted and have. I think this just comes down to whether or not you have a coherent belief system. I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. It's also kind of the bit you talked about with woes, where like if you have some sort of, I think, really well set code of morals, or more importantly, I think religion, you're going to adjust way easier to
Yeah.
fatherhood or parenthood. I mean, there a gentleman who's literally my age. They just had their third kid 2 days ago, and I mean, I don't think that. I mean, even when they had their first, they were basically more or less ready and prepared to go, just because they already had a religious. They go to church. They're pretty well set in their ways. They both make money. I mean, they're both teachers, but I think that when you're set in your morals and you have a pretty strong support system that isn't online, it makes it easier. But I don't know him well enough to give any two more comments. I just saw it and I was like, I don't know if you want to. You're kind of doing the kill to party style here about wanting to go back and enjoy your party life more than anything else. But still,
Yeah. No, but I think like first of all, I think the fact that he does lead a very like travel-y, like tech lifestyle, like him and his wife are both like techies. So I feel like, growing up in like the sort of like rationalist, Silicon Valley type of like environment is not like conducive. Like I think Justin's he's trying to restore a semblance of like family life and tradition and so forth. I think like he certainly flirts with those ideas, but Justin Murphy, the man, is he's an enigma. You know what I mean? I know people call him a grifter and all that stuff, but but I feel like he's I applaud him for trying, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like it should be easier for men to express, I think if he framed it as like, this is another thing that Insane Grindset said, that if he framed it as like, oh, it's hard being a first time father. Do you guys have any tips? Like, I really care about my family, but it's like, I notice it's hard and I can't balance myself. Like, if he would have done that, people would have poured him. Like, there would have been like A-logs who would be like, hey, you're a grifter, or like, oh, you're an F slur, blah, blah, blah. But it's like the way that he framed it was like terrible. And apparently, Grayson also, our good friend Grayson Quay, is also in the chat, says he has his firstborn on the way. So congratulations, my friend. But I'm gonna have to ban Grayson from the chat for being a fake cell, because no, I'm kidding.
Well, then you'd have to kick me from my own stream, Geo. But
true. But we love you, Grayson, folks. So congratulations, big guy. God bless you, and hopefully everything works out. Yeah, due in May. That's a good,
fantastic.
born in
That's
May.
a great birthday time.
Amazing. May is like, I feel a good golden ratio month. I feel like it's a good spring. It's still spring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like May is a good month to, it's a good middle. It's like not too like in the middle, like especially when your kid goes to school. It's like he'll be a bit old, or he or she will be a bit older. Because like I went to school with kids that were like almost a year older than me. So like I almost had like that inadequacy, like like I felt like I was a little kid all the time. But I don't know, that's my own personal neurosis. I should have been held back. I should have been the oldest kid in the grade over. But I already had friends that were like in the 1992, generation. So like, because I was a mini baby boom that year, the 92 kids were like the core, we're like the flag bearers of like the core millennials, like the middle road millennial. 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 Speaking of millennial, you're tonight and you're millennial. You're top of the bill. You're top of the card, bro.
I sure am. Yeah, I'll be on Millennial later tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. So I will be live. I will have my camera on. I have no idea what Mr. Woes and I are going to talk about, but I thought that was the cherry on top for today's birthday, that I get to make my millennial appearance the same day as my birthday.
Nice.
Oh, Grayson says his birthday is, I'm assuming, January 4th, which sucks ass. Bro,
Oh man.
well, here we are 2 days before Christmas.
Yeah. You do
Oh,
simping for gifts. Yeah, Gifts and Given had a good millennial last night. I of course was gifts guarding in the chat. So gifts gunk guarding.
well, I expect to see so many familiar names and faces later this evening with Mr. Woes. It'll be a very good time, nonetheless. But yeah, no, I think that this is I've done it now. This is I think the third birthday that I've done on stream. I did one
Really, eh?
shortly when I made the channel in 2020. Last year, this one. I was joking earlier I was going to ruin the algorithm because I had yesterday, today, and then on Sunday I'm going to have my Christmas address out on the
Nice.
channel. So it's okay. 'Tis the season. It's good time. It's not white knighting. It's gift guarding.
uh,
Oh.
I do think the New Year's stream will be the year in review, like with different people, or how are you planning that?
I think it'll be very similar to what Academic Agent did with his Christmas party
Yeah,
streams, where it's just going to be kind of free flowing, and we'll let the guests take the conversation. But yeah, New Year's Eve, December 31st, I'm going to have a stream celebrating the new year. Going to have all sorts of friends and guests on. All are welcome. One of these days, I do want to do a call-in show for chat just to see how that goes, because I know Jay
yeah.
Burden's done it once or twice, and it's been a good time.
Maybe like through Telegram or Discord or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably. I mean, well, I pay for the StreamYard's premium stuff, so I can have like
yeah,
up to 10 people on at the same time.
yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
you could do it through that. Yeah,
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
but it's because this year has been like quite crazy. Like I feel like from one thing to the next, like in the previous, like the reality of like this year and the previous 2 years has been in some ways, starkly contrasted. Um, the war especially is really a crazy time, and I feel like we're at like a crossroads with the whole um like liberal universe thing. I mean, maybe I'm just making too much of it. Maybe Turbo America will win. I don't know, but maybe not. But it seems that we're at this crossroads right now. We're at sort of like a liminal time, to use a catchy term. But I mean, I think by 2023 we'll pretty much know the direction that things are going to go. I think by summer 2023 we'll probably have a good picture of what's going to happen. But then again, you never know, right? So
I think we'll have a good idea by February, but
yeah,
for right
yeah,
now, I think the primary focus for everybody is trying to take care of themselves, take care of the family, and by all means, try and manage the winter. I made the mistake yesterday because I did take advantage of either shopping locally or buying from friends that make things. I have a friend from church that has a bookstore that he's going to
oh,
finally close down, and so I got some stuff from him.
oh no,
And I mean, he's well into his older years. I think he's very happy to
oh, he's like
retire.
just, oh, I thought you like closed down because he had to, not because
No,
he's,
no, more like he's just getting old and tired of the shit, you know. And
yeah,
welcome, Furious. How are you?
Oh, hello, gents. Indeed, I'm well, thank you. How about yourselves?
We're doing quite well.
good.
Welcome.
I apologize for the lateness. Sorry, I had a bit of an audio issue at my end, so I've had to resort to a second mic. So I hope it all works.
You sound great, so don't worry.
Thank you, and I hope the
Nice.
chat's well. And Geo, good to hear from you, old paisan.
Yeah, grazie, my friend. We had. I actually wanted to ask you. We were talking about the other day on Digital Archipelago. We were talking about Russia and the various like ethnic, like Stalin ethnic conflicts. And I was trying to explain that like, every empire had ethnic conflicts, and how Rome had to deal with those issues as well. And I'm like, oh, maybe Furious probably knows about that more than me. So it's like, I
Actually,
mentioned you
yeah.
yesterday. Yeah.
No, good. I appreciate it. No, thank you. Well, it's kind of interesting that because I actually did listen to most of the stream. I apologize. I think I might have fell asleep towards the end of it, but I actually did catch that, and I had an interesting back and forth with someone because obviously, when sports ball comes around, everyone gets excited, everyone,
Yeah.
supports a team, etc. And there's always that, there's always that crowd who want England, France, USA to win because it represents like peak GAAE, right?
Yeah,
And
especially this year. My God, it was
yeah,
yeah.
like it was in overdrive, right? And And there was an interesting thing about like what defines being French or like French citizenship, and then the conversation kind of revolves around, well, there's this kind of a conception of idea of what is actually a Frenchman, and that probably comes out of the Middle Ages. And before that, there's this synthesis of Celtic, Gallic, Roman traditions, via conquest, right? But this fusion that occurs between two cultures over an extended period of time with a presiding, dare I call it, like an uber culture, which is Latin and Roman. And then the Franks come into France, in the Roman Gaul in the 4th, 5th century, and then sort of over what would be a couple of hundred years produces this sort of synthesis of Germanic traditions, of a Celtic, well, I say Brythonic because it survives in places such as Ireland, Wales, and Brittany, right? This North European Celtic tradition, and a Mediterranean Roman Latin tradition, and like I said, and like I've said in this thread, these people sort of all relatively close, existed close in proximity terms, right? They, for hundreds and even indeed thousands of years, were close to each other. Their borders sort of bled into each other, their cultures interacted, and even then, it took half a millennia for that to produce a standalone culture, which is France, right? And that was without interference and without interruption, without slight meddling of NGOs or some like mass media propaganda pos sort of operation. And then you create France in those conditions. And these people just think, oh no, you can just get, you can just pluck a Burmese person or a Namibian or something and plonk them in Milan or Paris and give them a certificate and they belong to that country. And it's just like, no, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like way where it says, my mother is from Angola, his dad is from Cameroon. But his passport says French national.
Hello, base department.
No, here's one for you, Furious. Do you have anything that the Australians do fun for Christmas?
They die of heat stroke in Christmas.
Yes, we're fighting off a literal tsunami of like scorpions and spiders and box jellyfish and all manner of shit that wants to kill us. So, I mean, we lost that famous war against the emus, so we're still reeling from that catastrophe.
Well, one of my favorite like normie content that I like to enjoy is a YouTube channel called Value Select, and they just sort of do these little musical skits and songs. And they have one where it's just called Fish Hunt, and they just tell this little story about this tradition of like going out to fight these like 7-foot tall fishmen. And it's a catchy song. I recommend that anyone just check out their channel. I think the work that they do is pretty good. But that makes me think of Australia every time. It's just like, yeah, that sounds like something that these guys would do. They'd go out and get their knives and hunt, these 8-foot tall fishmen.
People eat emu and ostrich, but it doesn't taste like chicken. It tastes like beef. There's that chef on YouTube, the guy from China. You're this guy. What's his name? I think it's called Uncle Rural Gourmet or something. Like
Uncle Roger.
Yeah, no, he's a Chinese guy, and he's like in rural China, and he like cooks all this. Like he had an episode where he cooks. I believe he cooked an emu once. Yeah. Apparently, it tastes like beef though. Have you ever had emu, Furious?
I actually haven't. No, I've actually had kangaroo. I've had. Oh
my god.
And kangaroo is extremely lean, and therefore tough, and you need to be, for anyone who sort of likes offcuts, because I suppose being a paysan, my great grandparents were probably as poor as your great grandparents, Geo. So they used to eat things like guanciale, beef cheek, offcuts, because they were poor as shit and they had to make their money. Their few handful of lira go a long way. So I sort of grew up around that.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, we have a phrase for it. We call it cucina povera, the poor kitchen, literally. And so I'm used to like offcuts. I like them, and the Brazilians do the same thing with picanha, and the French.
Picanha is very good if it's made well.
Picanha is delicious.
Very good.
Picanha is probably my top 3 favorite meats, just because it's flavorsome, and when it's cooked right, it's delicious. I've actually had picanha in Rio, which is next level. Yeah, the Brazilians, the South Americans really understand that sort of stuff. And hopefully, if I get a chance to come to the US, I'll be able to sample Texas barbecue myself. But
I know
back,
just the place I'll take you.
oh man, please, like I'll give you the plain notes, and we'll have to pencil that in like properly, because I'm quite the fan of like short rib and like St. Louis ribs and barbecuing
Oh,
and
well,
smoking
Nice.
I
stuff.
definitely
So,
know where I'm taking you.
yeah, yeah.
But
Actually, on that
hello,
note,
Charlemagne. How are you?
oh Charles,
Hello.
Just
How
saw
are you?
your invite since the Australian showed up. Yeah, just wanted to hop on and say happy birthday to you guys.
Well, thank you, man.
Thank you, Charlemagne.
How are you managing the weather?
It's pretty chilly, but gonna go on a hike today since it's gonna warm up too. Just around freezing.
Chat's determined any guest that comes on. Today is your birthday as well, so happy birthday to you both.
Thanks.
Nice. Thank you, gents. And indeed, I actually forgot. Well, not forgot, but we got talking straight away. So happy birthday to you too as well.
Well, thank you.
Furious.
Oh, Furious, I wanted to ask, since you said that you had eaten kangaroo, is that just the traditional way to eat your opponent after a fair boxing match?
Yeah, after he like kicks my dog, I sort of punch the kangaroo in the face and then I barbecue him. That's just
That's how
what
it
we
works.
do. Have you guys seen that video of that guy who like has his
Yeah, he
his thumbs
punched-
attacked
yeah.
and he hooks the kangaroo? in
Apparently,
the chin?
kangaroos kill dogs in Australia.
Oh shit, yeah, they
Yeah.
will. Like big kangaroos will even attack like, how can I put this? You get breeds of dogs, say like Dobermans or German Shepherds, that have like size and natural aggression, and they'll gore them. So you don't
Oh my
actually go
God.
near like big kangaroos because they're strong. I mean, you're talking about an animal that has 200 and 200 plus pounds of just like muscle mass. That they're big creatures and strong.
It's literally like fighting a human.
Yeah,
Yeah, that size.
except begging for mercy doesn't work. They just, yeah.
Oh man.
Well, that's probably a good idea. I should probably go out for a walk in the cold. Probably be good for my lungs after this. Not really doing anything much today until Millennial this evening. So yeah, I think I'm going to go on a hike. That's a good idea, Charlemagne. I should do that.
Actually, sorry, I have to laugh at Forbidden Anthropologist. The best part is you've already tenderized it during the boxing match.
Oh man.
Hello, Mr. Burden. Since you're on stream, happy birthday to you.
It's not my birthday, is it?
Well, you're on this stream, so it is now, according to
Oh, well,
chat.
fair enough. Then happy birthday, everyone.
Did you see the latest D-Man atrocity where like ZHP like totally just destroyed him?
I saw a little bit of it. I was somewhat lacking on context because I was working very hard and totally not half-heartedly scrolling Twitter while at the job site. But I don't have all the context on it.
It was where Dreyer said that Camp of the Saints is an incredibly evil and racist book, and you shouldn't read it.
But it's very prophetic.
Yeah, but it's very prophetic. Yeah, so he contradicted himself there.
So actually, I'll admit to something. I had some of a crisis of conscience after my last stream with Prude on it, and decided that I was playing into the game and I was the one making Dreyer, and like I was doing exactly what he wanted, and so I've just stopped interacting with him completely. And so I've even tried to stop talking about him because it's not really helpful at this point.
Just not to feed the Urgagore, in other words.
Exactly, yeah. And I was even, and this is not playing inside baseball or anything, but I even like after I stopped recording, I even like turned to Prude and I was like I might delete this, and he was like, no, you should probably keep it around. And so I won't get rid of it, but
it's good content.
I'm done talking about that guy just because it makes me feel gross, if nothing else.
I told you I'd upload it myself if you deleted it.
And that really was the deciding factor. I was like, well, I'm not going to let him have the views. Like, if someone's going
to...
No, but I feel like drama can go either way. You can either, like... There's a terminal point where you could, like, just feed into it and you could, like, make it into content. But then after, But that's, like, if you're a particular type of person. But then the best is probably just to, like, let the Urgagore peter into nothing.
Well, and I won't say anything in particular, but I think the reason it made me so mad and the reason I actually wanted to talk about it is not because it was drama. It's because I actually know people who have been affected by Dreyer.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it kind of just like it really just made me mad. It was like when someone kind of like punches you in the nose and like you flash red and you're just like, well, all right then, fine, And so I just got really upset about it. And then kind of with a few weeks to cool off, I came back to it and I was like, okay, yeah, like it's not good. It's not good for the soul. And so that's something I've done doing. I'm not saying it's like I'm not making a prescription for anyone else, but at least personally, I'm done with the root wiener man.
Yeah. Root wiener.
Oh, it's good to see you, Furious and Charlemagne.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been enjoying your content. It's weird because we don't actually interact much, even though we have several avenues to do so.
Yeah, I know. That's mostly my fault. I'm a notoriously terrible communicator. And so even my like very close friends, it's like, all right, well, I'll talk to you in 6 weeks. So
yeah, me too, man. I'm the
bad.
same. I have so many DMs.
Yeah, indeed, Jay Burn, I appreciate you actually. You DM'd me a while back. I know we started like chatting, but then I've sort of been out of the city for like the last 4 weeks, so I've had like access to a telegraph station here in Australia, so I've just come back to civilization and phone signal. So, indeed, but it has been good, and I've watched a bit of your stuff, man. So no, we'll have to try and link up something next year if you can.
Oh yeah, sure thing. So I want to add something actually to the emu conversation. Because that's where I was.
Oh God!
This is actually completely unrelated. So emus are, at least in my area of the country, are a relatively popular farm animal. I think the reason is that emu. It's like they're not particularly expensive animals, but there's some kind of delicacy either made from emu or their eggs. I don't understand the details, but they're pretty common to have on farms in my area. Just like 1 or 2 of them, and they're incredibly aggressive animals. They're like the same aggression level as like a rooster, but they're big.
Yeah.
And so I have very distinct memories as like young, like 3 foot tall Jay Burden running as fast as my legs could carry me away from the emus in the middle of the woods because I'd done something to anger them. And it was basically like my own personal version of Jurassic Park, just with this like 5 foot tall, like proto dinosaur that wanted blood. And I don't think it actually could have hurt me, but as soon as you said that, it was like Vietnam flashbacks.
Yeah, well, they're basically like a flightless eagle. Like they've got all the predatory instincts of these advanced avian predator hunter types, but they're just landbound. And so because they can't fly, they take out of their frustration on us groundbound types. But you'd be surprised though, like they're pretty swift. I remember when I was younger, we were out for a fox shoot and we saw like a mob of emus. It would have been like, say, a family, like a mum and dad, maybe like a couple like semi-grown chick birds. And I mean, we were driving at, I'm just trying to do the calculation into miles. We would have been doing maybe 35, 40 miles an hour, like sustained, and they were more than keeping up with us. And they got phenomenal stamina. It's interesting what you said about the aggression though, because and you're quite right. People actually will keep a couple of them semi-domesticated on their property because where you actually have, say like emus or ostriches, those sort of types of creatures, you'll never get problems with like foxes or wolves because they're actually, strangely enough, quite well. They don't kill them, but they're quite terrified of the bird's aggression because of their size as well. So that's why people tend to do that, because they'll keep them around, say like sheep or cows, and none of the sort of like canine predators will go after them.
Fellas, I have an important update, but I know you people don't care about. No one should care about Canada. But Prude, I sent you something on Telegram. This is what the Canadian taxpayer is paying for right here. So apparently Justin Trudeau and that guy that looks like a literal bug man that like locked us down for 2 years. They made a Christmas.
We're putting this on screen.
They made a Christmas commercial. I'm not joking. Oh my God.
Okay, so let me know if you guys hear the audio or not, but we're gonna go press play.
Yeah, you can hear it.
It's already gay. Holy shit.
Look at this. This is my country, dog. This is my country.
Omar, it's time.
Dude, what?
Why does he look like that?
That's the guy that's in charge of travel in Canada.
He's like
This is-
half Lori Lightfoot, half Jeff.
Are we
Goldblum in
giving?
all
Is he
the
gonna
worst
give
ways.
Santa a Vax Pass?
Yes,
No way.
No
you'll
way.
see. This is the guy responsible for like making my life a living hell for 2 years.
This is worse than Dan Crenshaw's like James Bond ad.
This is incredible.
Justin Trudeau's telling him to dump it.
Dump it. What's the mission?
Jeff Goldblum vibes.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel bad. Oh, Mazel Tov.
Opa.
He couldn't even do a full hammer. My God.
All that estrogen means muscle mass, you know.
This is an oddly convoluted setup.
I know. Sign up for Maid. It's probably the Maid program he's going to activate. I've never seen the end of this. I just had to show everyone.
Oh my god.
Why does he have to choose the mission so many times? Just start the mission.
Oh, it's to let Santa into Canada. Because Santa has the
None of these people
pass.
are on the nice list.
Santa is cleared for travel in Canadian airspace.
Oh
He's
my
coming.
god.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and stay safe.
Oh my.
I don't know
Oh,
what to
That was
say.
incredibly cringe.
that
This
was
is the
awful.
country I live in.
I've literally caught cancer. from watching
Well, don't
Curious
don't
as
say
leukemia
Canadian
now.
healthcare.
That reminds me, speaking of Santa in the airspace, please write to Santa and ask if he'll let the Russian Ministry of Defense borrow his sleigh just for one day. Please.
I love how Canadian shitlibs they ratio every single day the the Canadian Russian embassy on Twitter, and like they don't care. They just keep posting. It's incredible. Go to the Canadian Russian embassy on Twitter and you'll see what I mean. But
It's okay. Boris Johnson is saying stand in solidarity with Ukraine this Christmas, but then he says switch off your festive lights, show your support.
look at record deepness. Whenever I feel trapped and alone, I'll just think of how Geo is trapped in Canada. Then I won't feel so bad. Oh boy, oh
Oh,
boy.
well, speaking of like hell or man-made horrors beyond our comprehension, there's this. That
But he had to like let Santa in oh my god, I saw that.
What?
Well, they hardly need that. I don't know if you guys caught it. It was actually just maybe it might be a couple hours before I jumped on the stream here, and it was like some bloke basically saying, "He's like, yeah, I'm working. I can't remember where it was, like in London somewhere, and this Ukrainian refugee in inverted commas, like basically he's already got like an Albanian or a Bulgarian boyfriend. Meanwhile, her husband's being conscripted into the army. It's like, wow, holy shit."
Yeah, I just wanted to
Ukrainian-
share this
Ukrainian chicks
'cause
on Tinder,
this is
holy
how
shit.
people are staying warm this Christmas. All you spinsters out there.
Oof.
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
I
That
know.
reminds me of that scene in The Shining. You know? With the bear suit.
And then I saw this from Scrump earlier today.
Yeah,
I thought this
naughty
was
and
pretty
nice.
good. Santa is dead. We have killed him.
That's
Look at George
actually
say,
pretty
The
clever.
Canadians have killed Santa.
oh my god.
Omar has killed Santa.
Look at Grayson. Women will buy this bear. Men will get really into streams like this. I hope so. I hope we can radicalize men into never mind. But it's crazy, the bear thing. I knew, like, I remember way back in the day, I was watching, it may have been either Popular Mechanics or it may have been like the what was that Discovery show, the science show with like the old guy and the Scandi looking woman back in the day, Daily Planet. And it was about like the Japanese invented a hug pillow that hugs you back. And like, you know, someone could use their mobile phone. And I'm thinking like if they had the technology then, it's like people thought it was crazy, but now it's like it's got this like mainstream kitchified sort of like buy this product and like fulfill this like hole in your life. Even though back then it was like, technology can replicate human contact, but that was confined to like, oh, this is going to be the future. But now the future is like staring at us, and it's even more fake and gay and kitsch than we could ever imagine. So I don't know where I'm going with that point.
The ashes, the absolute.
The absolute ashes.
The consequences of the French Revolution, shall we say?
The real Berenstein Bear.
Oh God.
Well, it's almost like the extension of like the weighted blanket phenomenon.
Oh
Where,
yeah.
like the weighted blanket is a product normally intended for the the neurologically disabled, and
Is it? Holy
essentially
shit. I have one.
yeah well
Oh my
yeah
god.
well
They were for autistic people.
Neurodivergent moment.
well essentially the idea was first it was to to help people with like sensory diseases, and essentially as we've all like driven ourselves to autism through like endless online contact, like this fidget spinners, that seem really really useful, I might use those. This is just like the extended version of that. We've just given ourselves like giant
Oh,
stuffed
I really
animals.
just viewed those bear things as just the female dakimakuras or whatever. But I guess that works out too. But joining us is Mr. Patrick Casey. How are you?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How's everyone doing?
We're doing well this
Good.
fine December afternoon. How's your day so far?
It's been pretty good. I just got home from running some errands. I was watching. We won't say chatting because that's legally dubious. But I was definitely watching or listening from the car. So yeah, I've kind of missed the last 20 minutes has been discussed. I've missed that. But I wished you guys a happy birthday, each of you, in chat. But now I want to do it here. So happy birthday, Prudentialist. Happy birthday, Geo. I think it's pretty funny. Everyone probably thinks it's funny that you guys have the same birthday, but I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't aware of that until today. So, the
thank
forces
you,
of
my
the
friend.
cosmos brought you together for the digital archipelago, and we're very, very happy for that.
It sure
Man.
did. You did miss out on probably the most cringe taxpayer-funded public service announcement from the Canadian government, letting them know that Santa's coming to Canada and that he's allowed into Canadian
Santa
airspace.
has a sacrament pass, and he's free to come to Canada.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. I thought you were going to say that I missed out on Geo's obligatory one per episode e-girl digression or something.
Oh, we already did that. He was talking about how
but
he
I missed
was,
that too,
He was
maybe.
gift guarding Gifts Ungiven on Millennial last night.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess the digital archipelago bingo applies to all streams that Geo is on.
Well, Gifts is my waifu for Lifu, so
The
I had-
discussion yesterday about what was it, the quotidian for becoming a wizard or something of the sort, and you could just hear that. I was imagining the pained expression on the Prudentialist's face. You could hear it in his tone. But yeah, Geo
What do you think-
fact checked me. I was in the chat. I'm just chatting. I'm having a good time, and Geo's fact checking what I said. What? I super chatted. I'm being a pay pig, and I still get. Actually, no, that was cool. I didn't know the deep lore for the Gaston thing. I like John Doyle, but I don't know like the deep lore behind. Behind all that.
No, but he created the political meme though. But no, because yes, you were talking about the e-girl tournament, bringing it back. It needs to come back.
Oh yeah,
And,
that was a good throwback. Yeah, all of the e-girls quite predictably ended up doxing and leaking each other's nudes. It was a very vicious competition. If you did like an e-boy competition, which kind of sounds gay, but if you did it for like male Twitter, there might be a little. It would be like 1% as competitive and nasty.
It wouldn't work. You need the e-girl tournament. And it would thin the herd, and only those superior e-girls can survive. So that's my
okay.
thinking
I'm
of
putting
it.
up the bingo sheet so the rest of the chat knows what we're talking about. So our friend the Lonely Traditionalist on Twitter, he didn't make a full 5x5, but this is what we've got so far. This is the giant Geo Bingo for any time that Geo is on stream for the Digital Archipelago. So here are some things that you will hear throughout every episode of the Digital
I think I hit
Archipelago.
Kitsch too. I think I
Hold
hit
up.
catch.
This square is not the correct dimensions. There are only 4 rows.
I know he has not finished it. There will be more added, but
It's
this
a
is
work
what
in
we've got
progress,
so far.
right?
This is so funny.
The funny,
Never
Yeah,
mind that.
every episode has a BAP impression, theory selling, would, e-girls, no, maybe, unless, the Curtis Yarvin, sure.
We're hitting all of it.
Yeah, we hit all of them. And we already did the Canada Economic Zone with the...
Yeah, there you go. We hit.
Exactly.
Yeah, people could win.
Yeah.
actually, I think the
Oh.
only thing I was going to say, this reminds me of like, I swear 3/4 of these have been in our two streams that we've done on Ben Hur. Everything was said in that except simping. So, Gee, if we do part 3, you got to slide in simping into.
Yeah,
the
Philip
first
Dan.
stream.
Exactly.
It's
Philip
the full
Daniels got a
Geo
good point.
experience. You kind of get disappointed when, Geo goes on a show and you're only hitting 1 or 2 of these.
You need
That's
the
when you
full
know
one.
he's sick or medicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Philip Daniels says, I'm kidding. I'm only partially kidding and mispronouncing French words. There you go. That's enough. That's the deeper lore.
So we've got to find 3 more boxes to complete the 5x5.
Oh, and obscure Japanese wrestling analogies. Well,
And also a new metal reference. There's
and a
2
new
more.
metal. Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
1 more, boys. We've got to find 1 more.
Truso might well be a free space as well. That's very true. Oh my god. Amazing.
What about fake cell shaming? I feel like that's pretty.
That's pretty, yeah.
There you go.
Fake cell shaming.
Apparently Hicklib as well. Grayson tells us this should be another one, so that happens. Well, maybe
Man.
we should have him on the show. There you go. That's perfect.
Maybe we should have him on the show. That's I got that. I think I got that from BAP when he said, I don't know, it was a 4 to 5 it was episode 4 to 5 of show. And like, I don't know. Oh man. But yeah. So what are you boys planning for Christmas? Maybe you should go around the panel.
Just gonna have a Christmas dinner with my local friends / co-landowners, and exchange gifts. Should be fun.
Nice.
With the snowfall there, Charlie, and I suppose your degree of remoteness, have you sort of managed to get your hands on like a nice cut of meat to roast or something, or what sort of food you managed to prepare out there at this time of year?
You just get normal food from the store, Just make sure to get it ahead of time and put it in the freezer.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, nice.
No hunting this year because don't have the facilities to handle that much meat at the moment.
Yeah, true.
And before
true.
Mr. D shows up.
Yes, of course. Well, I suppose I'll go next, gents. Well, this today we baked the Christmas cake. So I have this. We have this family recipe where we sort of do part because traditional Christmas cake is sort of like generally raisins and currants, and then you sort of cooking like a brandy dough, and you sort of get that nice sort of brown caramelized sort of sheen on it at the end. But we sort of do a bit of a variation. We actually also use dried fruit nows, and we steep it for over a month in booze. So it's a very boozy Christmas cake, but it's delicious. I brought ingredients today to make I usually make a tiramisu for either Christmas night or Boxing Day.
That's tradition right there. The tiramisu.
Oh yeah. Oh, mine's boozy. I actually soak the biscuits in coffee, and I usually put sambuca in the coffee, and then when I do the custard cream, because I do it like there's like a short and a long method to doing tiramisu, and the long method is that you actually create a sugar syrup, and then you pour the sugar syrup into the egg whites, and you create like the Italian meringue, like the cooked meringue, and then you fold that into the custard cream, and that's how you make your filling.
Nice.
And then I usually flavor that with it has to be a nut-based liqueur. So I generally use like Disaronno, or I use Frangelico, and then I sort of slap it all together. And you got to leave that overnight. Like you got to compress and leave it overnight, because it's basically like an Italian trifle, right? And then
even the Frangelico, my god, this is pure WAP right here.
I was going to say, like, we're missing D. Like D would be doing backflips hearing this. but yeah, and then I just what have we got? We've got got a nice cut of beef shoulder for Christmas lunch. And tomorrow the girls in my family, because it's kind of like the girl thing to do, they go down to the fish shop at like 8 in the morning and buy prawns and sardines. So yeah, that's how Christmas lunch sorted out.
Nice.
Jay Burden, what do you do for the holidays?
So having the classic Gen Z broken family, I get to kind of like go on a circuit of different Christmases. And so I'm actually driving quite a bit. I'm driving all in, I think, in different stages, roughly 4 or 5 hours, over the next couple of days, and then all the way back, which isn't, the end of the world. So I'll be, one Christmas or two in my hometown, one, in kind of the mountains in North Carolina, but it should be a good time. My family's not the most traditional. My fiance's family is, a big, kind of like extended Swedish family. So they've got lots of, like bizarre, continental European, dishes that I don't particularly understand that involve lots of like umlauts and, extended vowels, but it should be really fun. I really do love Christmas. It's kind of my, my favorite part of the year. And my church always, pulls out all the stops. We have, almost a full orchestra there. And so it's definitely something to look forward to.
I just on what Burden said, I want to say this because often there's like this whole North European, South European, like potato Europe, tomato Europe, olive oil, butter Europe, etc. distinction. But I have to say that North European Christmas, or the interpretation of it, is actually really sort of cozy and nice. Like I love the way, because you mentioned like the umlauts, Burden, so I'm assuming like German or something.
They're Swedish, but yes.
Also, okay, Swedish, yeah. But the way that they like their interpretation of Christmas is actually like really, I find, based in sort of like old world European sort of mythos and folklore. And I find that obviously in the new world, where it's sort of like, I suppose we live, you guys in America and myself down under, some of those roots are lost. Like Christmas has become more commercialized, has become a bit more superficial, bit vacuous, very sort of, based on things and gifts and sort of, rather than the deed of Christmas and the food and family and that sort of stuff. But I think the North Europeans really do have a really, like you see photos of, say, like, I don't know, Munich or something, or Augsburg, and you see those Christmas markets in Germany. It is really beautiful. I think people, if you have a chance once in your life, do a European Christmas. It is really something if you're able to.
Even Christmas in London, you could say, had that. Yeah.
Yeah. Patrick,
Absolutely,
do you have any
yes.
Christmas traditions that you guys are doing this year?
Just usual stuff. Christmas dinner, Christmas Day is looking like the plans, and probably seeing friends and family around that time. I unfortunately am going to have to dip out. I have some stuff I need to do by the end of the day, and I was actually willing to put that off to hang out here, but I think the chat heard. I don't know if you guys did, but my neighbors are like renovating stuff, so there's a loud saw that's interspersed by 10 seconds of silence. So I don't want to subject you guys to that. I will have to muster through it. Yeah, there it is. Do you hear that?
Nice.
It's so loud, dude. Yeah, it's brutal. Okay, well, I've got a little writing to do, but anyways, thank you for the invitation. Happy birthday to the two of you. Merry Christmas to everyone on the panel and in the chat. I hope you guys have a good one, and see you guys around. Take care.
Yeah, God bless.
Thank you.
Merry
Buon
Christmas,
Natale.
Pat.
All right. See you, Patrick.
See you,
my
buddy.
friend.
So Furious, if I can just jump in for a little bit, that actually reminded me. So Vingle, obviously, famous chat member, has a great channel where he posts a lot of kind of like archival footage, bits from documentaries. And he recently published a short clip from a Swedish film, which I think was Ingmar Bergman's last ever appearance. It's just 4 minutes from a Swedish Christmas film called Fanny and Alexander. And I have no context for it at all. I'm not Swedish. Apparently it's, kind of popular there. But it's essentially just a, extended scene from a period piece, kind of like going over, traditional Northern European Christmas. So head over to Vingle's channel and just give that a watch. It's interesting if, for like gratification, if nothing else.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. That'd be great. And of course, if he's in chat, say hello. Because I'll follow. I'll go to your channel, have a look. So if you're in chat, mate, let me know.
I didn't know that about Vingle had a channel. I mean, he's the top scene janitor. I mean, he's got more wrenches than than a Snap-on set, you know. So
Well, and I will say, Vingle is. I love channels like Vingle's. You know, they're like tiny micro
Yeah.
channels. Like I think he has like 300 or 400 subscribers, and he posts just really interesting footage. Like he went on a, this might be interesting to you, Charlemagne. He went on a kick of posting, footage from old Cajun music festivals and kind of like old Acadian history, which I thought was really interesting. So there's a lot of good stuff there if you're willing to dig. And
I love that type of archival stuff, you know, from back in the day. Like it's, you know what I mean? It's random. It's brings you back in time, you know.
I didn't know he had a channel. That's cool. I just knew he was in every chat ever.
Yeah, he's prolifically everywhere. I didn't know until Jay Burden posted that he had the channel, and archival footage like that is great. It's just that I've noticed that all of our Nordic friends are either like well done political commentary channels or they're really good shit posters. I think Ludic Path is probably my favorite YouTube person right now that does shit posting videos, where he did the we mentioned Jordan Peterson earlier. He did the public service announcement. He was doing a Sigmund Freud impression. He's just like, "Hello, everybody. This is Sigmund Freud. I just want to let you all know that everything is fine, and whatever you do, don't Google Jordan Peterson grandmother dream."
Is that real? Grandmother dream, Jordan Peterson?
Yeah, it's in Maps of Meaning.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
have
I've
Maps
heard
of
about
Meaning
that. I
right
was
here.
afraid to ask.
But yeah, so he's pretty fun there. But I need to introduce our newest panelist, Mr. Grayson Quay. How are you?
Good to see you.
Likewise. I hope that you're doing well where you're at and that you're having a happy holidays. Congratulations that your first child is on the way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm in North Jersey right now with my in-laws, but gotta work, so it's a very slow week, but I still have to be on and doing stuff, so I figured I'd chime in on this chat to keep myself busy.
You're in Jersey?
Yep, up
Nice.
in North Jersey.
See that church? Your great grandfather built that. Oh man.
Yeah, with my Sicilian family, and enjoying my interracial marriage.
I believe.
Why? What's your?
When Italians are not.
Oh God. Why? What is your wife, Quay?
She's like second or third generation Sicilian American.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Man.
But on our honeymoon, we did actually go to like the village that her family's from in Sicily. It's like a village of 1,000 people, and
Oh, nice.
we got to meet one of her like great aunts or something who still lives there and doesn't speak any English, but like showed us around her house and stuff. It was cool.
That's pretty
Nice.
cool.
That's
very-
awesome.
I'm
very
also
nice.
third generation Sicilian.
I didn't know that, Charlemagne.
Yeah, well,
Oh,
I'm
God.
also eighth generation French and like fourth generation German. So just name a European ethnicity and it's in there somewhere.
I was going to say you're quite literally, because I knew about the Italian before, or Sicilian rather. I didn't know
Not
about the
Italian,
French or the German.
Sicilian, okay.
Sicilian, sorry.
Yeah, there's a
French.
difference.
But I was going to say it's kind of ironic that he sort of picked out like Charlemagne as sort of your character, as it were, and you literally embody Charlemagne just because you're sort of dotted from all the right parts of Europe to sort of comprise of that identity.
Oh, it's a good. Yeah, I'll accept that analogy.
Look at Spasticus Autisticus. I'm half Irish and half human. Oh my God, that's terrible.
You're saying you're half potato.
Half potato. Oh man.
Well,
But what
once the potato ran out, they all came to America.
Garibaldi in Sicily. You guys know what I'm talking about? The joke that Curtis Yarvin tells about Sicily and Garibaldi.
Oh,
God.
I forget the one. Yeah.
He
Please.
didn't unite Italy. He divided Africa. I think it is.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's actually kind of funny though, because that I don't mind telling you guys is fine. It's actually how can I put this? What sort of I don't know if progenitor is the right word, but I have an ancestor who's actually a member of Garibaldi's like initial band of 1,000. And the funny thing is that when they landed, he romanced the local woman and didn't realize that he'd actually made her pregnant. So he after they completed the conquest of the Kingdom of Naples, he actually abandoned his family who were like from Genoa and resided in Sicily. That's why there's like a few strange surnames in Sicily that have northern etymologies, is because of Garibaldi's campaign, because they obviously first attacked Sicily.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just listened to a book about Sicilian history, and like I truly got lost a few times. Like it's so confusing how it just keeps getting handed off here and there, like kind of all downhill since the Norman Kingdom collapsed in like the early 1100s or whatever.
If I can take a leaf from like a volley, you know how he sort of said like the world began to collapse like during the Ghibelline and Guelph sort of struggle of the 12th century. If I can make a similar,
He's like a Ghibelline
judgment.
going in there to that crew.
Exactly. Basically, you could say like Sicily was fucked once the Gathocles died. The first tyrant of Syracuse. Sicily's been going downhill ever since.
I don't know. I think the Norman Kings had a pretty good setup going there. They kind of had this interesting thing where it was almost like the Spanish Caliphate, but like in terms of like ethnic mixture, but it was under like Christian sort of hegemony instead of Muslim. And yeah, I don't know. It seems like they made it work really well, and they made some cool architecture.
Yeah, just a matter as a matter of curiosity, I wanted to ask: did you travel along the north coast when you went to Sicily?
No, actually. So I didn't. We didn't really have time. We were only there for about 4 or 5 days. So we landed in Palermo, but then we basically just drove to the southern coast of the island, and we stayed in this city called Shaka, which is pretty small. And then would drive around to random tiny villages. The coolest one we went to was Catabalota, where the Aragonese and the gosh, I'm trying to remember this portion of Sicilian history is so complicated. But it was during the struggle where the Aragonese were trying to take the throne, where they signed a peace treaty at Catabalota, and there was this like castle built along this like mountain peak that you can still kind of walk up to the top, and there's just like very minimal castle ruins, but you can like kind of still tell where it was. It's really cool.
Yeah, like the foundations sort of still there, so still see the outline of it as such.
The entire thing's on like a 45-degree angle. Everyone there could kill with a single kick.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, some of the places where they built, and that's even true for say like southern Calabria, like where the Toes of Italy. Same thing, like there's sort of like these escarpments where they just build these towns and settlements, and it's like if you literally tripped holding a baby, your baby would fall off a cliff, but they just somehow manage. It's quite amazing. They've sort of adapted to it. The reason I asked about the where did you travel thing, because there's a really interesting city on the north coast called Cefalu, which was founded as a Greek city called Kephalodion. And what's interesting about Cefalu is that it's got I suppose it's a cathedral now, but it was a church that was built. It was built, I believe, at the sort of what you'd call as like the start of the Byzantine period, like when the Byzantines first made Sicily like a self-governing province, or a theme, as the Greeks would call it. And then obviously the Arabs invaded, and they took, like the Arabs actually didn't overrun Sicily. The conquest of Sicily took the Arabs about 220 years thereabouts. And then when they took this place, this town called this city called Cefalu, it's more of a town. They then put minarets around it, and you can actually sort of see on the sort of top parts of the building, like on the outside, where the roof line is, there's sort of like the Islamic sort of ornamental kind of, like the shapes that Muslims use in their architecture, like the sort of like the sort of semicircle arches and the wide, like more wide curvature, that say compared to like narrow Roman arches and that sort of stuff. And then obviously the Normans arrive, and then they turn it back into a church, and you can actually sort of see where the Normans have added on parts of the church when they conquered the island, the island, and obviously the town as well. So this church is sort of built essentially in 3 layers. There's like, original Greek sort of Orthodox chapel thing, Muslim mosque, and then Catholic Norman, almost sort of cathedral, not quite cathedral, but like monastery. And it's all done in about 5 centuries. But Sicily is full of that because of that time period of that sort of waxing and waning of different cultures in one area.
At Sicily as a whole, yeah, that's a good metaphor.
Yeah,
For it.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny as a Sicilian with four of us on the panel here, that when sort of natives do the whole woe
On the
unto me,
Vendetta, on my-
the Anglos or the French came, it's like try being Sicilian where literally everybody invaded you, like in history,
I remember in Sicily, I ran into this one of your countrymen, Geo, who was telling me he spends like he bought like a patch of land where he grows olives and like makes small
Oh,
batches
yeah.
of oil and sells it, and he spends like 3 months a year in Sicily, and like basically with the olive oil like breaks even on travel and living expenses for like the
Oh yeah,
there.
especially nowadays.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Like that's the goal.
Man,
Like
That's-
my wife's family still owns like a patch of land like outside this village that was like they like worked it as serfs for generations and then like got it as their own patch of land during like the Risorgimento's land reform, and like they still own it and like grow olives there and stuff.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. Some
Nice.
of my family members went back to Sicily about a year ago to try and visit the village where the family came from, but they were advised not to enter by both local police and local mafia. So, yeah,
Yeah,
They're still pretty real over there, apparently.
when the mafia and the police agree to not go somewhere, generally it's wise to.
yeah. It was a
Not
funny
good.
story. They apparently the way it worked is they had to cross a bridge, and the police are on one side of the bridge, and basically like checking who enters and also advising tourists not to enter. And then on the other side, they have mafia like guarding the same bridge, and basically also telling people not to come in here. So pretty funny how that works.
Oh man.
The bridges in Sicily are a dangerous thing. There was a big prosecution of the mafia in Sicily in the early 90s, sort of like roughly corresponding when Berlusconi first got elected into the Italian political leadership in the early 90s. And there was one prosecutor, his name was, I think, Falco was his surname. And he was being essentially like police convoyed from Palermo, where he'd been working, and was being taken to Rome essentially. And the mafia actually orchestrated his assassination, actually detonated a bridge with explosives. It was actually quite a big deal. So yeah, that stuff still kind of happens in Sicily from time to time.
Oh, that was the famous case where they wrote the book Gomorrah, where they persecuted
exactly, yeah.
the Italian mafia. Yeah. Not that it made a difference in the end, but
No, they just changed tactics.
Well, see, I'm not like your swarthy Sicilians. I'm close. My mother's side, we're half Calabrese, and my father's side is Central Italian from Marche, so almost Roman DNA. But but my mother's side comes from the technically Calabrian Greek side of the south. So yeah.
Greco, as I call
I probably do have some Grecoid in me. So
I think my wife's family is from Calabria if you like trace it back far enough.
But that's a lot of people don't realize that there's actually they're very sort of spread out, and it's mostly through the eastern part of the island and into Calabria. But there's actually still roughly communities of about 12 to 15,000 people who still speak a derivative of Greek in Italy. That's called Greco. And it's basically, because it's been in isolation and cut off from Greece proper, they actually still have quite literally a lot of ancient grammar, if that makes sense. So people who want to actually learn ancient Greek are better off going to southern Italy amongst these communities, because they speak a variant of Greek that's actually far closer to like that traditional classic Athenian Greek than what Greeks in Greece speak today, which is like an evolved language.
That's cool to know.
Furious, I've been recently rereading A Commonwealth of Thieves, The Improbable Birth of Australia. And
oh yeah,
have you read it by any chance?
I haven't actually, no.
Oh, I mean, it's quite good. I had to read it in high school, but I took the chance to reread it. I remember it being quite thoroughly dry when I read it the first time, like 10 years or so ago, because it's probably been longer than that now. But rereading it now, it's just insane to think about how it took to actually get an established settlement to actually operate when you guys first started your country, or what would be modern Australia.
and also like the distances too. You got to think, for the British to first, and I mean, you can say it's true of the French with Nouvelle France, with the Quebecois, and it was obviously true with New Amsterdam with the Dutch, which obviously becomes New York. That distance, that traverse between the transatlantic sort of supply routes or the trade routes is rather less complicated than having to circle the entirety of Africa, crossing the Cape of Good Hope, opening the sails, going across the Roaring Forties, and hoping you hit this landmass called Australia. So it was actually quite a more difficult logistical thing to actually supply these colonies that Britain then set up as a consequence of losing the Americas in the War of Independence. Rather a big deal.
I love the fact that this was just Arthur Phillip took up the job because he was hoping for promotion, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do it," and not knowing, I think, fully what that entailed.
Yeah, indeed.
Oh, it was quite good, quite good.
Well, I don't know if it's in the book, Prude, but what's interesting is, I don't know if the chat is interested, but just for the sake of reference, is that the first people to actually map the west coast of Western Australia were the Dutch, right? And that's why the western half of the country for a long time was actually called New Holland. If anyone who's familiar with like the tractor agricultural brand New Holland, that's where the word comes from. It was actually the Dutch term for the western half of Australia. And the Dutch, one of their ships ran aground, and the crew was like living on the West Australian coastline for months at a time until they were rescued or whatever. And hence why there's stretches of the coast that's called the Batavia coast after Batavia in the Netherlands. And the Dutch literally take one look at Australia and just go, "This is a barren piece of shit. We are never coming here. This place is absolutely fucked." And then the British come and establish a few colonies. It's like, "Oh, there's heaps of stuff in the ground. Oh, this is actually valuable."
Let me ask an opinion from the panel, since it'd probably be a good time to ask. So, given the topic, so my earliest ancestors came to the New World around 1650, and they were French, right? So I've been interested in what people think about this in terms of its relation to being an American, right? Because I've had family here for a long time, but they weren't Anglo-Saxon or Anglo rather, and then we got Louisiana Purchased, right? So I noticed no one ever really talks about this ethnically in terms of how such people fit into like the American nation. Do you guys have any interesting opinions on that?
Before anyone answers, can I quickly ask Charlie something, just a clarification? When you say your ancestors arrived, is that just North America proper, or did they go to like the French parts of like the French colonies specifically?
My earliest ancestor who came to the New World traveled from Bordeaux in southern France to New Orleans.
Okay.
Right to New Orleans. Wow.
It's hard to know exactly. All I have is the marriage papers from the church before 1650, roughly, and then marriage papers sometime after that. So estimate around 1650.
That makes sense.
The government subsidized French hooker GF.
No, they did that in Quebec only.
I was going to say the French actually had that policy.
They went to a Spanish-French colony, right? French at the time, and how do you fit people like that into the historic American nation? Because it's not like we were immigrants, right? We were also explorers. We was explorers.
Oh yeah, like dating back to Champlain.
But no one ever talks about this. I notice there's a lot of autism about American founding stock, which makes sense in terms of the original American nation. But how do you account for the expansion of the country?
I think Russell is going to explode in chat if you don't let him in.
Russell,
I have a lot to say about
Sandbach.
Yeah. I mean, he's at work right now, so I mean,
he's the perfect person to ask about this.
I noticed that
now. Let him in now.
Yeah, let him in. I noticed that the E-right is sort of going through this war, like the American E-right, because I feel like it's because of one particular group that are Catholic supremacists and are mostly made up of Alessanders, such as myself. But I feel that, this is always going to be a question of like the heritage American thing and whether, I guess this has been a debate for many, many years now. Like, when it comes to, especially politics, like here on the right wing, like the heritage American thing, like, they definitely do have a greater say. But then when it comes to the fact that like a lot of these people, Irish, French, that have been here for like almost like 100 more than 100 years. I mean, it becomes complicated, but I don't know.
I went to this event at Catholic University of America last week, I think, where Russ Douthat was the moderator, and there were
Oh boy.
It was a really interesting event, though. It was on like Catholicism and nationalism in the United States, and like what the relationship between those two is. And afterwards, I got to talk to him a little bit, and I just asked him like, "What? I mean, do you think that this kind of nationalist project, especially if it's Catholic, like even really makes sense in America, given the argument you often hear,
Yeah.
that, like founded on that it's founded on Enlightenment ideals, and you don't even have like a pre-Enlightenment past to kind of balance that, like you do in, say, France before the Revolution, and you have like such a mix of people groups here that there isn't like a peoplehood, an American peoplehood that pre-exists the American founding necessarily, the way there is in France, for example." And he just he said basically like that's a real challenge, and especially if you do want to insist on this like founding stock thing, then you run into problems, because that's like a totally Anglo-Protestant group, basically. If you want to look at kind of the elite founder type thing, and most of the institutions that carried forward from those Anglo-Protestant elites are now like in the vanguard of wokeness. He did this. I remember, like, it reminded me of this column Douthat did when George H.W. Bush died, where he was like, the last of the like,
I think I read that column back in the day.
The last of the like conservative elite American wasps. And like from now on, it's just all from now
Ellis
on,
Islanders
pronouns all the way down. Yeah, exactly.
Real Calvinism has never been tried.
But I feel like America has, spiritually at least, a much older root to it. Like America's a contradiction in the sense there's something very ancient and something very new coming together in a synthesis. But that's like more of a, that's more of a spiritual thing. But anyways, yeah.
One thing I would say is that I think that it's a correct point to make that there is no one American people in the same way that there is, there's a German, there's, a Frenchman. And the earliest conception, it was always like the peoples of America. And I'm not saying that in kind of like a shitlib sense, but there was this pre-1865 recognition of the fact that like, well, I'll use New Orleans or I'll use Louisiana because it's very distinct culturally. The idea is like, oh no, those people are different. They operate on a fundamentally different set of values. They're from a different stock. And there was always intermarriage between the two, but when it was more of a confederated system, it made more sense. And our unification was so much messier and so much more contradictory that I think that the identity that came out of that is kind of incoherent because of that.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to, I feel like I feel like you've got to look more to like, I don't know, the Austro-Hungarian Empire as an example, rather than like, the nationalist, like romantic nationalist projects that you get in like France and Germany in the early 19th century,
Interesting.
I'm of the opinion that the sort of Ernest Renan 1848 style "What is a Nation" type of classical liberal romantic nationalism that you do really see a lot, that I think a lot of people do try and transliterate that to the United States, and I think that's where you often see so much bickering about like, post your docs, tell me where your founding fathers were. Like, did you have descendants that fought in the Revolutionary War, or Scott Greer likes to go off about whether or not you were here before 1965 or had people that fought before 1865 or so on and so forth. And I do think that, especially nowadays, I try to be realistic about it. For me, it's like, well, the immigration is going to continue to be a nightmare, especially with what we keep seeing with the footage from like Eagle Pass or El Paso, and that's constantly being ignored. I just think that there's going to have to be some kind of balance. Whatever ruling stock or elite hopefully would be more right-wing and probably not with much hatred towards heritage Americans or whatever term that people want to use. I think that we're going to have to find some way to find some sort of confederal or loose sense. I mean, things are already pretty regional as it is. It doesn't matter whether you're, Hispanic or white. Like, I can tell by someone's voice whether or not they're from California pretty easily. I think that once you sort of have these mega regions develop, it gets a little easier to determine it. But I just don't know how effective that can be, considering that like really the largest white European ethno group in America right now are actually Germans. I mean, there's more people in America with German ancestry than there are Anglo founding stock ancestry.
Really, eh?
So, yeah,
Man.
they all settled throughout the Midwest. I mean, like Wisconsin has the highest concentration above all. I mean, we used to have such a strong Germanic presence in the country that prior to World War One, I mean, there were more like German was the second most spoken language besides English in the United States. You had you had German and English newspapers. You had towns that still did their church services in traditional like German pronunciation. I mean, things have definitely changed.
My family, going back to my grandparents had a cottage on Lake Erie, in this like port town, and yeah, like I grew up Lutheran, and we went to this Lutheran church there, and like until the 1960s, I think they did services in Swedish. But yeah, that all kind of fell apart after World War One. Like that's where the term hyphenated American got invented. Was just
man.
German Americans over the head to stop speaking their language and going to their German after work, after hours clubs and everything. Like,
but one of the better gentlemen that might be able to help answer this question, interrogate,
opening up the pit right here,
is Charlemagne. Mr. Christopher Sandbatch is here.
Yeah, this should have played my walkout music. I'm sitting in the office. Can you all hear me? I can't tell if my audio is
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm sitting in the office, and y'all start talking about this, and I'm like banging keys on the computer louder and louder and louder. Oh man, I don't know. I'll because y'all were flowing well. I'll hop in if I have something. Well, actually, you were talking about the 1848 style nationalism. I used to be one of these people, and over the course of writing a master's thesis, really what my master's thesis was on, actually, I was writing about the interplay between German. I had a hunch, okay, that German historiography, German historical idealism probably cross-fertilized in the United States significantly more than anyone had ever thought it had. And sometimes when you're doing historical research, you just kind of like drilling for oil. And occasionally, I missed a bunch of times before I hit this one. And man, I busted through a layer and just the oil just shot up to the dang sky. And I discovered that America was tried very hard for a long time to try and create some sort of nationalism for itself out of this 1848 style, sort of German philosophy, and it never worked. And I eventually had to come to the conclusion that it can't be done here. In a lot of ways. Now, everybody was, posting their receipts or whatever. My family came over there on the second shift. I can't remember the name of it. But in a lot of ways, a lot of you Ellis Islanders seem more American than me in some ways, because you all have more obvious memories that people would associate with America. With me, it's like log cabins. And with other people, it's like, storming the beaches in Normandy or going to Yankees games or something like that. I don't think it's possible here, because I think America is one of the things that's fascinating about America is that it was founded. We think of it as being founded in 1776, but people were here hundreds of years before that. And if you go back and read the early accounts, well, there's a great one. It's called The Relation of Virginia. It's a book that a normal English guy that was at the Jamestown colony wrote, and then he died the year after he wrote it. But if you read it, it reads more medieval. These are medieval people, okay? They're not yet modern, okay? The American political development diverges from Europe before modernity fully arrives. And so the trajectory is different. And in a lot of ways, because America was never really one ethnic group, there's always been too many of us. We really resemble the medieval world in a lot of ways more than Europe does now, because it's a patchwork of local identities, if you want to use that word, they have always blended, and they have always melded, and they've always shook and shivered with one another. And so, whatever the political development of the United States is, I'm not sure we can really actually set that European frame over it and talk about it in those terms without breaking the template. You know, every time we do this, we're going to kill 1 million people, basically. Also, happy birthday, Prude.
Thank you.
Hey, Sandbatch, can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to come in that hot.
Look at this comment by Whiteworth. Here, Sandbatch goes again. The conservative case for America was always an immigrant country. Oh my God.
Well, he makes a good
Yeah.
point.
You can say that, but at the same time, like I said, that you have to, you can't have an America that's, where there's a nationalist project in the same sense that you have, the French people or the German
True.
people. Right? There's just no such thing. Like, you got to figure something else out.
So
Well, you know, a
Sandbatch,
lot of these countries, and you could do it in the United States, but it would create a mountain of skulls. Okay, and one of the things that gets lost is because, okay, when you just start trying to decide who is American, you have to start excluding. And we tried to do this with the Germans. We just didn't have the heart for it. We didn't have the heart to follow through on it. Okay, like, there was early 20th century. You were talking about the Germans. There was serious persecution of the Germans. Serious persecution. Like, you talk to Turnip Seed, and he's still bitter about it because he's one of those like Missouri Synod Lutherans or something like that. The Amish still call us the English. Because of the sort of things that we did to them in the early 20th century. We started trying, no hyphenated Americans. It makes a great quote, but we seriously persecuted these people. Okay. And then we didn't have the heart to do it, is essentially what happened. But if you go back in the past and you look at all these European countries that did, there is always a point where the lights go out and then, French Protestants start dangling from Chartres Cathedral by their guts, or the Breton language is suppressed, and there is a brutal moment in the forging of every one of these European nations, and we were toying with the idea, and we couldn't do it. Maybe there's too many cameras or something. I don't know why.
Well, even setting aside the Ellis Island immigration thing, the post-60s thing or whatever, like, we also did ship several million Africans over here as slaves and then free them. And like, and like you said, like, there was a proposal that we didn't follow through on to just like send them all back to Africa. I think John Quincy
was under Andrew Jackson, or
well,
that was-
That's what you're saying. The great John Rebel,
right? After he funded people's like trip to Liberia, but it was just, there were just too many, right? Like, we're stuck being like an amalgamation of multiple, at least racial groups, right? Just solely because we had slavery and then freed the slaves. Like, immigration totally aside, like, you'd still have to figure something out.
I think Jay. Wait, who was first? Jay or Charlemagne wanted to ask. Who had their hand up?
I was just going to say that Sandbatch made a good point in that. America wasn't founded in 1776. Like, the government was founded in 1776, but there were people here long before that, and even talking about Ellis Island peoples is kind of weird because that again doesn't account for the non-English people who are already here. And you have America, the development of America is weird because it was a choice to do like the Louisiana expand west and right. So the meme I guess of like founding stock American like doesn't really work that well when the Thomas Jefferson basically decided to take all this land from Napoleon and just say this is America now. Like, what do you do about that?
Well, and you've also got,
it's not like a bunch of people came here at that point. It's like America took on board these people like very willingly. So now what?
Well, you've also got even further west. Has anybody read Death Comes for the Archbishop by Willa Cather?
I have, yeah. That's one of my favorite books.
Well, I mean, that's about like Santa Fe, New Mexico, the Archbishop there, like at the time when it's handed over from the U.S. to Mexico, and he kind of oversees, it going from this, Mexican place where to having this big influx of Anglos who are now kind of starting to become the ruling class there. So that's a case where these people didn't even come to America. The border expanded to encompass them, and they became Americans. So it's always been kind of there's always been a question of assimilation here. There's never just been a very clear thing that's this is the American people. It's always been as a static entity. It's always been something that's in flux due to westward expansion, due to slavery, due to immigration, for a number of reasons.
But I do
the
feel
the other thing I have to just add in here real quick, and I mean, it's something that Sam Batch and I and a couple others talked about over on the Old Glory Club, is that, I mean, you also had multiple sort of mini ethnogenesis take place, whether it was the result of the King Philip's War, or down in the Carolinas, you really get a sense of identity from the War of Regulation. And to even a greater extent, the Irish really have their own sort of Irish-American ethnogenesis come the Civil War. And so it really just becomes this fragmented patchwork of identities that are all part of a greater sort of label of what does it mean to be American.
Yeah, but I feel like that's the problem. From the perspective of someone who it's very hard to hear if you are an Anglo or Germanic American, it is hard to hear these arguments because our enemies obviously are that's what their goal is. The new America, the civil rights regime, that's the real America now, is a nation of immigrants. It's kind of like Canada, more or less, a non-country. So I feel especially in the political right, it's very difficult to hear these historiographies that say that the identity of America is very porous relative to other nations. And I feel the reconciliation of that fact is a very difficult one for obvious reasons. Because certainly the people our enemies have weaponized this, obviously, these different narratives that actually America was always an immigrant of nations, always multiculturalism. It's so yeah. But I think you had a point.
I think there's a possibility historiographically, speaking historiographically, and if we're gonna, if you're in grad school and you have, you got your Peter Novick, That Noble Dream, you got to do your historiography class, and that's somebody's like, yeah, I read that shit, and the question. This is at the dawn of the 20th century and the beginning of the golden age of American historical scholarship. It lasted about 5 years. It's about 10 minutes long. So don't everybody go to Twitter and be like, America's the greatest nation in historical scholarship. Hope Paul's not listening. Now the question is that this is the salad bowl versus the melting pot. And I think this really misses the point quite a bit. If you go back and read the founding fathers, one of the things that's fascinating is that what comes down to is, especially we did this on the Turnip Seed stream where we talked about different historiographical schools. The baseline for American conservative thought right now is the really kind of what we would call consensus history. And that's the idea that, we all come together or whatever. And it's the melting pot, and it's all historiography is the melting pot versus the salad bowl. And they'll tend to emphasize liberal high liberals, like John Locke. John Locke really was a guy who was past his prime. I mean, he helped write the draft of the Carolina colonial constitution, but he was really past his prime by the time 1776 comes around. He doesn't figure in nearly as much as Straussians will like to tell you. And who is that guy? Oh God, he was at my alma Vogelin. Eric Vogelin. He's at the Eric Vogelin Institute at my alma mater.
Whoa!
It's not really there. It's not really there. If you go look at the founding fathers, the country they're looking, the historical entity that they're looking at, and they see themselves in, is the Holy Roman Empire. Okay, and that's the one that they take a lot of ideas from this, and culturally they imagine themselves the same way. Now everybody likes to go grab that Ben Franklin quote about the Germans and everything, but this was a problem that existed in America in the 18th century, and everyone was aware of Okay, and they, the political economy that they begin forming is one that really it is meant to accommodate some of these other smaller cultures. God, I'm standing outside now; it's cold as hell here. They really are set up to accommodate this. What they're not set up to accommodate is Latin American culture. And that's what my little circle means. It's these circle people. They all have pretty similar cultures, pretty similar backgrounds. They have petty disputes with one another, but there's not really any impetus to like standardize the American culture or to like say that this is American and that is not. Except and they actually did have this. They sidestepped it by saying what we are not is what Europe is now. We are not absolutists. We are not tyrannical absolutist regime. And that's the framework that I think you can adopt. That's why I've been toying with this medieval America thing quite a bit, because I think that's the possible right-wing historiographical answer to the left's nation of immigrants. It's like, well, okay, and if you really go look at, the medieval world, if you believe your own bullshit about the medieval world, okay, then you have to admit that America is it's pre-modern in a way that in its assumptions, in its original political economical assumptions, it's considerably more pre-modern than the Europe of the 19th century or the Europe of the 20th century or the America of the propositional America of the 20th century. Sorry, that was a lot at once again.
No, but that's fascinating because I think that like the understanding now is that America is like turbo modernity, like the America of like the post civil rights civil rights regime, but like nowadays, like that sort of history is lost. But then, I don't know. What did you think of Vogelin, by the way? I know that's the Gnostic things come up quite a bit. The Twinksorg, but
yeah, I've never really read much of him. There was a professor one of the really prestigious professors at LSU was the chairman of the Vogelin Institute. And I didn't take many political science courses because I had a lot of STEM hours, and then my undergraduate degree was in literature, and then my graduate degree is in history. So I pinged all around it, but I didn't really do much with it. I would go to their seminars because they would get great seminars. It was just great people to come in. But I know Vogelin as the guy who gets the guy with the grant money and the Gnostic guy. I don't know much more about him than that.
By the way, I have some intel for everybody, Prude, if you want to hear this about Twinksorg. His article about how the Baptists and other people in the E-Right are Gnostics, right?
Yeah.
Okay, there is this journal for Vogelin studies. It's called Vogelin View. There's this guy. He's actually a pretty good writer. I read his essays way back in, I believe, 2016 or 17, where he makes the case that a lot of like contemporary like E-Right thinking around like accelerationism or like what the guy with the hairdo was doing at the time or other people, that they were essentially Gnostics, that they were like in Vogelin's analysis, they would essentially be like political Gnostics. And I'm thinking, did Twinksorg basically just rip off that journal, Vogelin View, but just applying it to BAP and like other people? And I'm like, I wonder, it's quite interesting because these like ideas I've been hearing for years now. So it's like, but that's just a bit of intel. But about the American medieval ideal, like that's fascinating. I'd love to hear like, Jay Burden and Charlemagne's thoughts in Quay.
So I will say that that's actually very similar to a point made by, a mutual friend of ours of Bagby. He's actually drawn a connection to the medieval view, specifically with kind of the more, I guess, agrarian and aristocratic tradition, that it is in a weird way older than you would think, kind of looking at, at America, just with the kind of like the number by the name, so to speak. It's like, 1776. Like that would lead you to kind of a different conclusion. I guess to me, I'm actually quite sympathetic to your general thesis that we shouldn't look at this like a European nation state. And I think that one of the things that contributes to that specifically, and you actually see this breakdown in reverse, is that the concept of white is something that only really makes sense in an American or in a New World context, right? When it's essentially this kind of like us against them mentality. And whereas that kind of breaks down in a European context, but to me, right, I can kind of understand why you would want to have this like broader modifier for white, when you're essentially dropped into this massive continent, with incredibly harsh, incredibly warlike peoples on it. And so to me, right, the idea that we would kind of create this new, and I guess like Geo said, this kind of like simultaneously new and old thing, creating on one hand a new racial category and on the other hand this kind of like older way of like organizing society. To me, that kind of makes sense given the, like the material conditions, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm rather fond of this idea. It's the first time I've heard it, but I think it makes sense. And I think people like Turnip and Stephen Carson might really take to it as well. But I think it's really important. And this is something Thomas sort of clued me into. I think getting our historiography right is actually one of the most important things we can do in our sphere. Thing that people haven't really focused on at all until really this year. But yeah, I think it's just important to actually settle these questions. It's not just a matter of some autistic like internet debate. I think it's actually really important to get our history right. And that doesn't mean like rationally, empirically, factually correct in some like cold way, the way like liberal history is sort of done. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say on it than that.
But then the question would be, I guess, to all of you, like even, do you think America's currently, like I talk about this to Josh Neal, like, do you think America's currently going through an ethnogenesis right now?
No.
That it didn't.
No,
No?
I don't think so. I think it's. I think that could happen. I think it's going through. I don't know, an ethno death. What's the opposite of ethnogenesis? It's
Phenatoic.
all the ethnicities that exist in America are being
ethnoatrophy.
Yeah,
Charlemagne?
ethnoentropy and ethnoentropy. That's what's happening in America.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, I don't know. That doesn't necessarily mean we won't have an ethnogenesis. I mean, if you think about entropy in like a star, that can cause a supernova, right? So, but I don't think we're undergoing an ethnogenesis right now. I think old ethnicities are amalgamating and decaying and sort of drying out, and we'll probably end up with an ethnogenesis from that. The question is who's going to have power, basically, in that arrangement. If it's still the left, I think you might have a. Well, I think we'll just continue this sort of fake ethnicity that is being developed, which is just sort of this weird amalgamation of everything with a heavy black influence. I don't really view that as legitimate. I don't think you ever can get a legitimate ethnogenesis out of this weird propositional American formula. All you can actually get more out of it is more and more ethnographic decay. That's going to make an actual ethnogenesis for white people that much more difficult.
Well, you know how I spoke about the suppression of the Breton language and how there is a moment in all of these European countries where the lights go out and a pile of skulls, and you look, there's a pile of skulls, and they put like a ribbon on it, and they say this ribbon represents liberty, equality, fraternity, something like that. That's what we're looking at right now. It's essentially an attempt to top down create this thing. They're actually trying to do right now what I just said can't be done, that's what's going on. Yeah, it doesn't work real well. Here's an interesting thing. Germany there are two cases. I did a Myth of the 20th Century show about this. Actually, it's like at the moment the pandemic was starting. This is the 20th century, and I would talk to this guy that was in Milan, and we were talking about the failure of Italian nationhood, but it had like this weird zombie ethos to it, because like there was the early reports of like COVID death machines. But the two countries that kind of gave the lie to this idea of a concept of a top that it's possible to really enforce top down ethnos are Germany and Italy. And if you look at these two countries, Germany as a nation, Germany as a nation state concept has been around since the 1870s. Italy's been around since the 1860s. Both of them are catastrophic failures as nations. There's no way around that.
Yeah, I
You know,
just yeah,
they-
this is very true in the Italian example.
But
I mean, it
you
did
look at
take,
these things
two world
and you
wars
see
to
this,
work
this
out
yeah,
destabilization
this isn't working.
Germany being a nation.
I think in order for any sort of ethnogenesis that makes any that even has a chance of succeeding to occur, it's for people to sort of actually really believe their own ethnic traditions. I mean, I'm thinking about in New Orleans, you still have things like Irish Italian parades, and you have a lot of these like ethnic microcultures that sort of have these traditions, and there are celebrations that go along with them, including things that happen during Mardi Gras, but it's all just kind of fake. Like it's not something that's like believed in or revered in any way. It's just like this continued pattern of behavior that happens to be continuing. I think people need to actually take their whatever type of American they are, they need to actually take it seriously and seriously respect and perform their traditions, which I don't really think it's something that millennials are constitutionally capable of. From interacting with mostly millennials my whole life, I mean, even the ones that are more or less right wing, like they just cannot take things seriously enough to actually do that. So I think we're probably several generations removed from anything you would call real ethnogenesis, because I don't think we actually have serious enough people around today in the position to do that. But maybe as millennials actually enter middle age, which some are, or get older, that might change for some of them. But yeah, I see a huge problem with millennials just not taking things seriously, and then Zoomers, of course, as well, are very ironic. Like millennials are very sarcastic and unserious. Zoomers are very ironic and almost equally unserious. They just sort of display it in a different way. So I don't see the current generations as being actually capable of what you'd call ethnogenesis.
Wait, real quick, because I want to hop in and respond to the chat. And actually, Pertinax and I got into this on a space one time. And there's a lot of confusion about this because the chat is here's a fascinating bifurcation in a lot of ways. Because I said Italy was a failed nation. Everyone blinks. And then I said Germany was a failed nation, and the chat explodes with people going, Germany is a nation. It existed demonstrably since the Middle Ages. And they start waving their Tacitus at me or something like that. Okay, yeah, that's true. There's people that spoke German languages they can understand. But whenever I'm using the word nation, I'm referring specifically to the modern nation state concept. Okay, like that this is these people are a solid unit that can be taxed as a unit. You can draw a line in the sand and say, this is where Germany ends and France starts. Never mind the fact that Cologne is a French city that's now in Germany. Okay, those. If you even go back to early American German immigration, these people don't refer to themselves as German. They call themselves Hessians, or they call themselves Bavarians, or they call themselves Dutch, or something like that. This is Germany as the blob, like the Paradox Interactive country that is Germany, where you click the decision button and the map turns a different color. Okay, and it's got one unified government, one unified set of policy proposals. Okay, that's what I'm referring to. I am not denying that Germany as a cultural thing with a bunch of similarities existed in the Middle Ages. Sorry, just to clarify that.
Well, gentlemen, I've been enjoying this conversation immensely, but I just had my power go in and out real quick, so I'm concerned now about the state of my state's power grid. But if it's okay with you all, I would like to perhaps enjoy another chance to have this conversation on another stream, but I'd like to get through the super chats and wrap up. I don't mean to rain on everyone's parade here in this discussion.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds great. Okay, so I'm just going to start off from the very top. We'll start with the YouTube ones, then we'll go to Entropy. Restoring Order for $4.99 US says happy birthday. Patrick Casey was on just earlier, so thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Corbin sends for $4 US, just a giant super sticker with a cup of coffee. Son of Haster says, happy birthday and Merry Christmas all. Please accept this humble sneed, and thanks for all the great content. Well, I greatly appreciate it. And, of course, Geo's birthday is today as well. Oh boy. So our favorite friend had decided to change his name. But anyway, so Douglas Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome, says, happy birthday and Merry Christmas for $1.99. Felix Fairmont for $2 US says, 30 means the wall, Geo. So you've been called out. The wall is here. And then Harvey.
Oh God, no!
You've achieved wizarddom. Congratulations. Harvey Wallbanger for $5 US says December 23rd is a damn good day. I can't believe I share a birthday with Geo and Prude. We all made it another year. 23rd Chads rise up. And then heading on over to Entropy, because there's quite a few there today. Let's start with the 23rd. Scribe 8762 says, hello, Mr. Prudentialist. Please list your top 5 Primarchs and or OGs or OG legions. I'm assuming this is a reference to 40K, in which I make the worst American, like, millennial Zoomer right-winger reactionary content creator, because I actually never got into 40K. I should probably pick up the Horus Heresy books and get started from there, because I just never did it. He continues on saying, for another one, for $5, he says, thanks for giving Area 88 and Ace Combat some more clout in these circles. Well, I'm a huge fan of Flight Sim, so I'm happy. And apparently, PPP from Kino Casino's birthday is today as well, because he just informed
No way!
Yeah, so there's another
That's incredible. 2 fat Canadians sharing the same birthday. That's amazing.
Well, there you go. Hunger for a very generous donation of $40. I greatly appreciate it. He says, happy birthday to Oswald Mosley and my fat cousin Vinny. I wish you all a wonderful Christmas and a happy new year. Also, hashtag stop tomboy genocide. Well, everyone should be stopping tomboy genocide any way they can. Cringe Walker for $3 US says, the birth of a new civilization is the formation of a new morality. And that is from a Chinese proverb. There's probably some aspect to it there. I think, and what we're going to be dealing with in the future with this question is we've kind of bifurcated along kind of woke, non-woke lines, but at the same time, I guess that kind of relates back to sort of Imperium Press's question of like, well, how do you tackle the problem of liberalism?
Can I just tack onto that very slightly, Prude?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I did want to actually reply to Mr. Sandbatch, but obviously with the internet situation,
we should probably have some time. Go for it.
I was going to say, I'm happy to sort of continue it on to another time, because I did want to elaborate. But suffice to say, in regards to that super chat and to what Sandbatch was saying, a question to ask ourselves to a degree is, how does the future transpire? How does collapse present itself? Is it West Rome, where the capital falls, outsiders come in, set up their own fiefdoms and create an ethnogenesis in their immediate sort of proximal places where they now reside? Is it the Franks? Is it the Alemanni? Is it the Visigoths, the Ostrogoths, etc., right? Or is it East Rome, where you shed all of these territories, right, which were actually of a previous hegemon? Because, I mean, let's realize here that Latins and Greeks, although they are kin, they are not the same people, right? You have the shedding off of the Latins and the lands that those Latin people conquered in the previous millennia, right? And then you're left with this sort of Greek center that is basically has its hands on the levers of control of the previous institutions left behind by the Latins. And then you've got East Rome, centered in Constantinople, which then presides over this 1,000-year continuation of what was before. So you sort of have like the potentiality of becoming Constantinople or West Rome, East Rome or West Rome. They're two very different fates, if you get my drift.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying.
I think that whatever comes next, right? I mean, and it's funny because I'm watching all this conversation about America happen a lot from more foreign observers, non-American observers, because I think, I think that American commentators, I think we do kind of have our domestic blinders on because, of course, we live here. And then I'm listening to like Niccolo Soldo argue with sort of like the maybe some of the like the pro-Russian or pro-multipolarity crowd being like, no, America's actually like the empire has never been stronger. Geo, our favorite Twink Sword character, has talked about, well, really the having this sort of like multi-ethnic propositional bit is just like par for the course of running a modern empire, which I don't know how true that is in comparison, because like I don't think you can make American imperialism comparable to say how the British ran it. Like we're not explicitly mercantilist. It's much more of a globalized bit there, although the Council of Foreign Relations has been reviewing books on stratification and deglobalization, so maybe that's a sign of where things may go in the future. So it is definitely something that I think we'll have to consider going forward in the future, but that tends to be the case. But I'm going to move on to the next couple of bit of super chats here, and then we'll just wrap up. So Polish Ambassador for $3 says happy birthday, and then there were a few more that just recently got sent in here over on YouTube, and since I'm back in the studio, I can share those. So let's scroll up, and then we'll see. Jacob for $20 US, I greatly appreciate it. He says, happy birthday, I'll catch you some other time, Geo. So I imagine that you'll be live or on another show soon, Geo.
Oh, yeah, maybe next week. Huh?
Yeah. And then Ogata says, start with Eisenhorn. I guess this is back in relation to 40K, which I'm not familiar with. Take mail and I'll send it a gift. Well, no P.O. box for me as of yet. There is some stuff that maybe in the future, but I don't think I'm nearly big enough as a channel or personality to quantify that at all in any way, shape, or form. But I greatly appreciate it. But since I have such a wide array of panelists here, I guess we'll let everyone else to promote themselves, and we'll start with you, Geo. Where can people find you, and what do you do?
Oh yeah, just go to my YouTube channel, my Twitter at Giant Geo Giant Productions, and Giant Productions at Patreon. So there you go. Give me money or a manual typewriter, blah blah blah.
There you go.
Merry Christmas.
Furious.
Indeed. Everyone pretend that Geo is Kiev. He needs his Patreon dollars.
Yeah, exactly. I need money for the HIMARS.
He's had to make $50 billion in 1 week. Show me how. Well, thank you, Prude. Yes, mostly you'll find me on Mr. Apostolic Majesty's channel. We're sort of still at the point of ending our 2 series, Orthodoxy, Autocracy, and Nationalism, and also Nations of Charlemagne, although that's actually technically finished. We've got a few more things in the pipeline as of the new year. We're actually planning a special, what I think might be a 2-part little mini-series on Tokugawa Japan and the Sengoku Jidai, which is the warring states of Japan, the feudal Japanese period, which would be interesting. Indeed, hopefully, actually, Prude, you and I haven't had a conversation. Well, hopefully we might do something in the new year as well. But aside from that, actually, no, hang on. Is Semigog doing? Oh, no, yes, there's an Australian special on Semigog's channel at some point, I think, between Christmas and New Year. So tune in for that. You're going to get myself and Guard and Lady of Shalott and 99 Iron Duke all in one go. So tune in for that, everyone. That'll be good fun on Semigog's channel. And indeed, thank you for having me on, Prude. It's been wonderful to chat with yourself and Geo and all the other guys.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Mr. Quay, where can people find your writing and what you do?
So I'm a journalist. Yes, right. I do most of my writing at the Daily Caller and the Spectator World, so you can find me there. And yeah, hopefully I have some big things in the pipeline for 2023. I wanted to wish both you a happy birthday and a Merry Christmas to all. And Prudent Geo, I'm probably going to hit you guys up soon. I have some questions about my mysterious project, and
well, we look forward to it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Mr. Burden, where can people find you, and what do you do?
So I'm the host of a 2-3 times a week hour-long interview show. I've interviewed probably 30 to 40% of the guys on this panel. Just recently had Pete Quinones on. And so you can find me over at the Jay Burden Show on YouTube. And this is probably the only time I will so shamelessly ask for subs, because I am very close to 2,500. And that would be a nice round number to end the year on. It would activate my neurons. So if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe and then unsubscribe at the end of the year, just so I can hit 2,500. It would make me at least slightly happy. But anyway, that's where you can find me.
Charlemagne?
Find me at charlemagne.substack.com, and also the Old Glory Club, oldgloryclub.substack.com, and also on YouTube. That's sort of my main place right now. And actually, yeah, we have a stream later today, I think in 4 hours, regarding the Christmas truce and related topics. So go check that out.
Yeah, the Old Glory Club will be live talking about not only just the Christmas truce of 1914, but also the various Christmas truces that took place during the American Civil War. So if you want to know a little bit about of just how those traditions have evolved throughout the history of wars, both in Europe and in the New World, by all means, tune in and subscribe to the Old Glory Club. And then last but not least, Mr. Christopher Sandbatch.
Well, you can't find me anywhere. I've been in semi-retirement for the last year or two, but I've promised that I would do more in 2022 has been awful. I almost want to do either a Millennial Woes but Jack Burden already asked for subscribers. Like, I'm once again asking you for your Twitter support, but if you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at CSandbatch, but I'm using my real name and face now, which has been kind of weird. And I do have the Esoterica Americana Substack, and I promise I'm going to start using it more. We're going to be a flurry of activity very soon, starting actually on Christmas. I have the Cormac McCarthy content that I've promised for quite some time. And I also want to apologize for calling Cologne a French city. It is not a French city. Correct. It's a German city. When I make mistakes, I have to correct them. But anyway, yeah, thanks for having me on, Prude, because I'm a nobody compared to these other guys. I've been hiding on the dark side of the moon for so long that everybody's forgotten who I am. But hope you all have a Merry Christmas.
Well, we wish the same for you. And everyone else listening in chat or on Entropy, well, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a fun 2-hour plus conversation on a variety of things, whether it's cringe Canadian public service announcements or the questions of American ethnogenesis. I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, both to everyone in the panel, to everyone who has a birthday today on the 23rd. Happy birthday, Geo. And with that, I bid you all a fond farewell and a good afternoon. We'll see you on the Old Glory Club, but most importantly, I'll see you on Millennial at 9 p.m. Eastern. Take care, everybody.